For millions of Nigerian children, education still means a classroom, a teacher, and a school timetable. But that system is struggling because according to UNICEF, more than 10 million Nigerian children remain out of school. And among children aged 7 to 14, only 27% have foundational reading skills, while just 25% have foundational numeracy skills. And so as parents search for ways to give their children a better learning experience, more parents are exploring homeschooling, driven by concerns about safety, overcrowded classrooms, rigid learning systems, or simply a desire for a more personalized approach to education. But this flexibility comes with questions. Can a parent really replace a trained teacher? How do children socialize? How do you measure academic progress? And is homeschooling genuinely an option for ordinary Nigerian families, or is still a privilege for those who can afford it? This morning, we're looking beyond the idea of homeschooling and right into the reality of making it work. But first, an ongoing enforcement operation along the Oshodi-Apapa corridor in Lagos has displaced residents of an informal settlement around Pako Bus Stop in Amuwo Odofin. The Joint Task Force says the exercise, now in its 6th week, is aimed at clearing illegal structures and reclaiming the corridor. News Central's correspondent Igbalani Yomoni is on ground. Good morning, Igbalani. Good morning. We'll be playing it now for you to watch. We'll be right back.
As officials emerge from the valley beneath the Amuwo Odofin corridor, smoke rises from what was once a makeshift settlement. News Central crew descends the abandoned hillside and finds a community peeking through what remains after an enforcement operation. Men, women, and children say they have been displaced once again.
They burn all my clothes, nothing. I no carry pin come out from my house. See these trousers, as you don't tear for bottom. Now waiting with me I wear from that day till now. I need a thief. Based on my hustle, I get everything I did do. But they just make me stranded. I don't know what I feel do. Small change with me I keep for house where I use in the buy market, nothing I get again. So I want to live life now.
We know that it's not right to stay here. Actually, we have a pipeline behind this way. And it's not good for we to stay here, but based on the condition of Nigerian.
I've been here for more than 4 or 5 years. I'm staying here just because of the insurgency around. We come here for rescue.
It's not fair. To me, it's not fair. I'm speechless.
We pay to stay here. Can you reiterate as it recounts how this works?
Take a good look at it now. The police that came here today now, I want to let you know that some of them, they used to come collect bribe from us. The last 1,000 we contributed. Got so good finding it out that they said it's for the settlement of the government for this kind of issues not to happen. Not knowing that they have realized that something like this wanted to happen. So they wanted to gain from us before the lost.
It's not the best place to live, they know. It's not where they're supposed to camp, they know. But most of them have different reasons for being here.
Ruth, a graduate of business administration, says returning home is not an option.
I can't go home like this empty-handed. Some of us are learned, some of us are graduates, some are not. You don't just expect that they should just come now, tell us to move away, using tear gas, using all kind of weapons as on us that we call the citizens. So what are they now governing?
Me, myself, as my side there, I get toilet there. Get where I bath, get where I cook, my fireside there. I cook myself. Them themselves, if you find something like nylon, they throw for canal because the whole of that side are canal.
For others, the enforcement has become a cycle: demolition, displacement, and rebuilding.
This thing has been happening for more than 2 weeks plus now. Each and every day, that's how they do. And whenever they do and pass, as you can see, we do come back again and start telling you. That's how we just...
The little business I'm trying to bring up to take care of myself, my family, you guys are now boggling to scatter it again. Then where do you want me to start from again? That means you want me to go back to what I've been doing before now.
So what they need to do is to look for an alternative for them. You don't just chase people away.
I just plead for the government, for assistance, for help. Like if you watch, see our small children, like yesterday night, one delivered yesterday night.
For here?
For here. So that kind of situation, where one take the pikin to, where one carry and go.
The Rapid Response Squad Commander, Shola Jajeloe, who led the operation, says the exercise will continue. The operation raises a difficult question. Where does enforcement end? And where does a sustainable solution for those displaced begin? In Lagos for News Central, Igbalani Omani.
Now we move away from that for a moment. Homeschooling may begin with a decision at home, but it raises much bigger questions about how we understand education itself. So what does it really take to educate a child outside the traditional classrooms? Can a parent successfully take on the role of a teacher? And what happens to part of schools we often take for granted? These include like physical education. But after the break, we meet a mother who has spent the last 9 years homeschooling her children and has gone on to help other Nigerian families do the same. Tomilola Olatunde, founder of Cuddle Africa, joins us to take us inside the reality of homeschooling, the freedom, the pressure, the mistakes, and the rewards, and everything in between. This comes after the break. You stay with us.
Welcome back to the show. Now you're watching Jasiri right here on News Central. Our guest today has spent the last 9 years homeschooling her own children and has since helped other families navigate the same journey. Tomilola Olatunde is the founder of Cuddle Africa and a strong advocate for homeschooling. This morning, she's taken us beyond the attractive pictures and into the real work, the choices, the sacrifices, challenges and rewards that come with educating children at home. Tomilola, welcome to Jasiri. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you.
I mean, so beautiful.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
So if it wasn't Tomilola, I'll be saying, are you Nekunde Putunda?
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, it's definitely giving Namuska. All right,
I get that.
So let's just jump right into the conversation because I know we need to dig deep a little bit. I know you've been homeschooling for years. So take us back to the beginning because for the life of me, I cannot fathom how doable that is. So what happened that made educating your children at home, the right choice for your family?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, my son was about 1 year, 18 months between that time, and I was working from home remotely, and I was tired. So I was like, okay, I need to get my son to crèche because that's how I was thinking. But then my husband, when we're talking about it, we actually looked for schools. And part of the things we wanted was somewhere that wasn't too far away from the house because we didn't feel like it was okay for a 18-month-old to be going in traffic in Lagos every morning. So that was our first criteria. But we went around to the schools and we didn't find any good one. And the one that was good for an 18-month-old was very expensive. And then I started asking myself, well, he was telling me that he knew somebody that homeschooled her 5 children in Lagos. His auntie. So I was like, okay. That was the first time I heard about homeschooling. And that was what made me now start digging into it. Then I asked myself again, this boy is 1 year old. I mean, 18 months, not yet 2. What else can he learn, right? So I decided that, okay, let me see if it's just ABCs 1 to 3s. And that was what really brought me into the journey of homeschooling. Then I saw that it was, wow, big in other countries. And I was like, okay. And then I fell in love with it because our initial goal was when he was 5 years old and he could talk. And so if anything happened in school, he was going to be able to come back home and say, oh, this is exactly what happened. I wouldn't have to rely on the school alone. So then I fell in love with the process and everything in between. So that's why I now continued. Yes.
But when you first mentioned it, once you made that decision, I mean, how did people closest to you react? I mean, well, apart from your husband, was your family supportive, both nuclear and extended, and your in-laws and all that? And then how did you actually manage to convince people that this actually could work?
Initially, it wasn't something that everybody was familiar with. So everybody was like, send the boy to school, send the boy to school. But as soon as he started talking, that was the shift for a lot of them because they could now see that, oh, what you were teaching him was actually showing. So I was like, okay. Then as soon as my immediate family got on board, I literally didn't listen to anybody else again.
Yes, I can imagine.
Yes, so his grandparents, as soon as they got on board, and they were no longer, oh, send him to school, send this to school. And they are now saying, okay, you can go here, you can do this, you can do that. I was like, okay, fine. These are the closest people to me. They are the ones that their opinions matter the most. So every other person, I didn't listen to.
Can I just find out, how old is your son now?
9.
9, wow.
Yes.
Okay, so if I know we've got parents that are watching online that have, navigated and played around the idea of homeschooling their children. So what would you say are the first steps, to wanting to deciding to pull your children out and then take them through homeschooling? In fact, what does the transition look like if I, for one, have a child that's in school, but decide I'd like to pull the child out of school and homeschool the child?
Depending on the age of the child, I would say that you indeed have to go through that transition period. First, again, it's getting you and your spouse being on board, or whoever is closest to you, because this will be your support system, because it's not an easy journey as well. And then for the child, depending on the age of the child, because different things can be the reason why. If it's a child is struggling in school, and then you want to get them, those ones that are struggling, they'll be happy because they'll be like, oh, all this negative energy I'm getting in school, once I get home, I don't have that. Then educating yourself as well as the parent on knowing what to do in terms of how you think about education. Because a lot of people will get in your ear and tell you, why are you doing this? But if you know the reason why you're doing it, firstly, then you'll be absolutely resolute in your decision. So taking your child through that transition is important, depending on the child. Let them come home and not bombard them now with this new school work that you're giving them, that you want to give them. But let them have that transition period to say that what you did in school was fine, but we're going to do things a little bit differently when you're home now. You might not necessarily have to copy notes. You might not necessarily have to do all of that, all those things that you're doing. Yes.
Enough to...
But then you're a parent, right?
All right, but then how did you, decide what your children needed to learn? Because you did talk about, a curriculum, and how did, you adapt, that particular curriculum to their individual strengths and weaknesses?
So when I said you're the parent, you know your child.
You know your child.
Yes. So you already know your child's strengths. You already know their weaknesses. And for one, my child is not a very big writing fan. Yes. And the world we are even going in, let me ask, when last did you write something? Like really, really write something? We're always typing. We're always on the phone. And that's the world that they will be exposed to. Exactly. So that's the world they will be exposed to, right? And if we're now adamant and saying, oh, you must write, yes, I encourage him to write. I don't say don't write at all. When it's necessary, I encourage him to write. But at the same time, I'm not lost on the fact that the world has moved on, right? And the world has moved beyond. It's important, yes. But when your child is now home with you, the things that would have been a stressor to them when they were in school, for example, if the child is not a big writer or is not a visual learner, you can tailor it, whatever you're teaching, to that child. Some children are big writers. So you'd put whatever you're teaching them to a level which they can now then, exhibit those strengths while you're working on it, the weaknesses that they have.
Wow. I'm looking at you like someone I've never seen before. Like, okay, this does work. I'm sure it works in your home. What would a typical homeschooling day be like? Because we know what a regular school is like. There's time for lessons, a bell rings, and lessons change, So when your children were younger, what was it like? Did they have like a strict timetable, or did they build learning around, or did you build learning around the child's pace and interest? That means you have to watch your child to be able to know what to do every day. So what was it like?
So when they were younger, it was structured but flexible. So we had sort of like...
So when they were young, how many kids do you have?
Oh, 2.
Oh, wow.
2. My younger one is going to be 5 in September.
Homeschooling.
Yes.
Homeschooling.
Continue.
So when they were younger, again, their age gap is different now, but when he was a lot younger, so it was structured, but it was flexible in the sense that early in the mornings, maybe more active times, we did a lot of our play activities, right? We did a lot of play activities where it was, if you look at the British curriculum, EYFS, right, early years foundation. So a lot of the activities were around arithmetic, literacy, science, and fine motor skills, gross motor skills for their fingers and their big muscles, right? So all those activities were incorporated into, they would throw, they would play. So it was play, but
like Montessori.
It was learning, yes. A little bit like that. Yes, play-based learning. Yes, so around that, then in the evenings so all those times they can eat in between, they can play, but it's usually not more than 20, 30 minutes for the younger ages. So the activities we do, and we do them 3 times a week. So Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So loosely right now, that's what we do as well, even for my older son. So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So we do those activities around that. Then Tuesdays and Thursdays, usually we go outdoors. And like I take them on field trips and things like that, yeah.
Wow. Honestly, it's a lot. It's a lot.
If a parent is really working, like working, how do you balance that?
That's what you started. I don't think you can work.
There are people that do, because we have a community of people homeschooling in Lagos now. And we have about 200 people in our community now.
Wow.
Yes.
Honestly, there's still a lot to unpack.
Some of them are working. Some work remotely, some work. So the way they do it, the people that work outside of their home is maybe they get a tutor and somebody trusted that can be there. But even if you are working and you want to be, the flexibility around homeschooling is that you can do it in the morning, you can do it in the evening. You can do it however.
Hey, but you'll be tired, exhausted more like.
Yeah, so people that are resident, there are people that they've had issues with their children in school, which was the reason why they decided to homeschool their children, at least take a gap year for a year or 2. Just to catch them up in what the school is not doing for the child. Now. But it's always not easy for them because, you know, they've probably changed schools multiple times. And because we have those kind of people in our community that she made the sacrifice to do a remote work to ensure that these are children that they've been in school, that she's not seeing progress, she has complained and complained, changed school, gone somewhere else, and it's like, no. She took the gap year for them so that they can catch up. Yes.
You know, there's some things, we need to go on a break, and we know that we still have a lot of questions to ask our guests today. But knowing what you need is only half the equation. Can ordinary Nigerian family actually afford to homeschool? So after the break, we're putting the cost under the microscope, from the curriculum and the books to devices, internet activities, and everything in between. We'll be talking about it. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the show. I was just saying that, no, I pick my battles and, you know, I'm not Namen. Yeah, but still, I understand homeschooling may remove school fees, uniforms, and daily transport, but it certainly doesn't make education free. And I know a lot of people watching want to know if homeschooling is really as accessible as people think. So, Tomilola, let's put the actual figures to this. For one child, what does homeschooling actually cost in Nigeria? Can you break it down into like basic, moderate, and more expensive options? And what are the recurring expenses, the things the parents pay for once, and the ones they pay for probably a weekly basis or a monthly basis? Can you actually put them together in cost?
Homeschooling can be as expensive or as cheap as you want it to be. So it's not clear-cut like that. The same way every family has different budgets. It's just the same way. So when I first started homeschooling, I didn't spend as much money because I started creating all of the activities that they do. I started doing them. I started doing them myself. So I did the extra work of trying to learn, because what people do is some people buy curriculums. So somebody that buys curriculum, for example, and is shipping it from the US to Nigeria, so their costs can, and that's them from starting, their costs can run into thousands of dollars just for starting. But when I started, my cost was the cost of the things I had at home. Yes, so I was using, because it's clay-based, I was using markers, cardboard. So how much is cardboard? 20 naira per piece, right? So it can be as cheap or as expensive as you want it to be, depending on the ages as well, right? So now that my children are older, things like extracurricular are the things that we do that are recurring costs. I still create the curriculum they use because I try to tailor it to them, but the more expensive option is maybe people that are getting tutors, people that are buying curriculums again from whoever or textbooks. So, and then books as well. So majorly the things that everybody buys for their children. So those are the things that can make the cost run high. But it can also, again, be as cheap as you want it to be. Let that be clear.
Daily, weekly cost, you know, cost.
So daily, weekly costs, I mean, that's what I'm saying. The monthly cost is like the, what's it called? Extracurricular activities, all the books. And for me now, I buy the books once a year because, so if I plan properly, I know the kind of books my children need for the year. And then I buy them because I try to get families to bring for me when they're coming. So I buy them, or if I can go to a bookstore and find them. But books in Nigeria can be very expensive. So, and I get to buy thrift books from the US as well. So those are the ways that, you know, again, the flexibility in it is you can decide how much it will cost for you. Then extracurriculars, you have the flexibility to find a cheaper version or a more expensive version, which you probably wouldn't have if your child was in a school. They'll give you the extracurricular that they have. So, again, it's relative.
Can you help me just break it down? You mentioned that other people buy curriculums, but you created a curriculum for your children. Now, in terms of accreditation, if you are the one that's creating the curriculum for them, is it an accredited curriculum that says they've done grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, if you are the one that's creating the curriculum?
So they're about, so you said Montessori earlier. There is the British curriculum, there's the American, wherever. But there are philosophies around education. So different methods. So there are about 7 of them, right? So the one we use, there's Montessori, right? There's something called Charlotte Mason. There's project-based learning. There is Roger Emilia. So there are different methods to educating. You are essentially doing almost the same things, but the method, again, how you're doing it is different. So for my own children, I do theme-based learning and project-based learning. So when you're saying accreditation, a lot of the things that they're doing, right, are literally almost the same. So if I'm doing theme-based learning, I am doing a theme for this week, maybe bees, right? And we're doing math in that. We're doing literacy. So I can read a book about bees to him. Numbers, we'll use bees to count. And so it is the same thing, right? Yes. And then they'll go about it. So for my older son that is doing projects, so we're doing a project around a question, right? And that question will answer how he's going to put in math in it, how he's going to put in science in it. So if we're doing a project around food, for example, so he will learn about food. He will learn, he can create a budget around a family to feed them, right? And then it's still math. All the things he's learning math, he would implement it in that project. So they are learning essentially the same things, but how they're learning it is, how is this now translating into real life? As against just saying subject, subject, subject. Right, yes. So different methods. And the beauty about homeschooling is that a family can decide to do Montessori. I would decide to do theme-based learning. Another family can do classical education. Right, but we're still doing the same thing.
Well, I'm sure we'll still have a question about adaptability, how adaptable they are when they are outside. Because this is so unique because it can do 2 things. Your children can be very elevated in their learning skill, or it's so different that they might just be totally like a fish out of water when they are in other environments. But you've talked extensively about budgeting and how you can scale it up or scale it down. How about parents? Are there things that, whether you like it or not, you must pay for? Things like expensive devices. Is it necessary to have maybe iPads, tabs, and other learning gadgets? We have paid learning platforms where some people actually join in on to be able to, you know, educate themselves. Of course, you've spoken about private tutors, and that's another thing I would like to question, because this unique learning style, are there particular tutors in Nigeria who are tutored exclusively in those kinds of learning, teaching? Because this is all new to me, and I'm trying to wrap my head around. So, where do you know, where would you find resources like these tutors? Is it the same teacher in Otakara that's teaching tests?
And snacks.
And snacks. Because I want to know. So all these kinds of things, how do you navigate them?
Which is why I always advocate for the parents to be involved. Parents need to be not involved in the sense you're saying, because you're already done it. Not involved in the sense that you are the one in charge of the education. So what we are used to in this part of the world is that the education is handed to us. Our children's education is taken care of for us. But my advocacy is for parents to now be involved. So even if your child is in traditional schooling, you have to also understand all of the things that is happening in that space, right? So where do you find resources, like you asked?
Good, yeah.
Where do you find resources, like you asked? When parents come into the homeschooling world, let me put it that way, there are always resources, right? There are always resources available. And
but when you started,
you
were like at the head of the pyramid.
So when I started, by the time you start researching into homeschooling, right? Because it's available.
You are exposed to a lot of
You're exposed to a lot of all the information, a lot of all the knowledge. The thing that I found different was that there was not a lot of African, Nigerian content, which is why I started sharing my journey. So there was not a lot of African content. So you will see that they will tell you to buy a certain kind of maybe flour or something. Maybe we want to make play activities, but we can still use the same garri to do it. So you're not exposed to, you know, local materials that you can also use to replace, substitute all those things. So again, that's why it is not as difficult as it looks. It's a lot of work, but we are all doing work, right? Yeah, let's
Okay. Now, one question, very important question. You know, one of the biggest concerns that parents actually have is the academic standards, and you did talk about, you know, the different types of, you know, learning, Montessori, classical, and the likes. But then, how do you actually know that a homeschooled child is learning at the right level? You know, what do you use to assess progress, and when do you know that you need to change your approach?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. So for, you know, the younger age, for me, what I do is when my children turn 5, I get an external person to assess them. I get an external person to assess them because, again, that's like the official age to start school. So I get somebody else to assess them. And different people have, again, there's some people that use curriculums, like I said. They have stated different things. And children have milestones, right, that they have. That is generally, by the time you give birth to a baby, sometimes we have apps that do all these things that will tell you, yes. So when they get to those things, you then now start, you know, tracking. Are they doing this? Are they doing that? And sometimes we also benchmark with, so we have the scheme of work for Nigeria is actually online, although you have to purchase it, but it's online on the official website for Nigerian government. So it's there. So you can also benchmark with that. So this is the scheme of work. This is what my child is learning. Are they? And then there's opportunity for you to do external assessments. And there are some people, when they get to the common entrance milestone, they prepare their children for common entrance as well. And there are people that have gone beyond that. I've done the WAEC. They do the WAEC as well. So those are the milestones people use and what I do.
Wow, I almost jumped into that WAEC thing. Like, okay, Okay. All right. We know that school has a lot of advantages. One of it is like socialization. They interact with other children, with, people not from within their household. It helps. So if a child isn't going to school every day, how do they learn some of those basic skills like maybe collaboration, interaction, relationships with peers, disagreement, building friendships, being functional in groups? How have you handled that with your children? Because I've seen children that didn't go to maybe school for a while. When they come amongst other children, they bite, they don't talk. So I'm just trying to see, because they see the four walls of their home all the time. How do they do when they're outside?
I'm surprised this one is coming now. I thought it would have come earlier, because that's the first thing everybody talks about, like, oh, socialization. But I always say that homeschooling is not isolation. Homeschooling is not isolation. We should remember that the children still are in communities, wherever they are at. Either they're in church, in mosque. You have friends. So initially what used to happen was, because again I was home, so during the holidays I have friends that maybe they're working and they want someone to care for them, so their children come. And I'm intentional about organizing play dates for my children as well. So my friends bring their children over and then they play. But my children are also not cooked up in the house. We take daily walks and we see all people in the neighborhood. So my children have relationships with people that are younger, older, their mates, and their oldest friend, which is now their grandma, is 60 plus. So, and they hang out with her almost every day.
Life lessons. Just learn a lot of life lessons from her. Us
being in proximity with our community. But now again, we now have a homeschooling community in Lagos, and we meet twice a month. So all of the children that are in Lagos, and they come for the meetings. We are always chaotic and we're plenty. So, yeah.
I mean, homeschooling really does sound liberating, but it also means taking on the responsibility traditionally shared with teachers and schools. Have there been moments when you, for one, felt exhausted, overwhelmed, or even questioned whether...
Thank you for that question.
Because, I mean, you're not just their mother anymore. You are the one that is their planner, you're their teacher, you're their administrator, you're their principal, and everything in between. Have you ever literally experienced burnout and said, listen, today's a public holiday?
Most definitely. Most definitely. Like, I'm human, right? So there are times when, we've taken a step back. There are times when we've traveled. There are times when I've decided that, oh, we're not doing stuff today, and then we can catch up another time. And there are times, so now in my own home, we now have a time, at least at the end of the year, where I take some time off by myself. So yes, it's really very important to indeed rest and try and be flexible. And that's why we don't do school every day. So we have Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Okay. So those days in between, again, is partly for them, because they have to learn to use all the things they've learned, free playing, and also partly for me, so that I can catch up and take a breath and then catch up. Yeah.
So before a parent decides to take the path of homeschooling, what should they really be asking them?
If you're not satisfied with your children's education, knowing that there's an alternative, because one of the things I've also seen with other parents that I've spoken to that have decided to homeschool their children is knowing that, oh, there is an alternative for maybe a gap year. Yeah. There's an alternative for me to, catch my child up if they need to. There's an alternative for them to, this thing is not working. We've tried here, and that. But if you want to, sometimes like where you know where it's pinching you, that it will make you make the decision. And some people, they've seen that even the education we received, we had to re-educate ourselves to do what we are doing now. Or how is all these things that I learned in school, how does it translate to real life? And then wanting different for your child. So if you then want that, that's like the starting point, depending on where you find yourself, whether you're rethinking education or you're saying, oh, this current system is not working for my child. Can I find something different? Yeah.
During the break, we're actually talking about which of us is patient enough to homeschool. But we actually need to know what qualities a parent needs to have, to be able to homeschool successfully. Is passion enough? Or do you need time, patience, structure, resources, and willingness to keep learning yourself? You just talked about
You
talked about learning. You just said it now yourself.
Go and learn algebra again.
You don't have to.
No, I think you are nice. I think you are nice. We have to.
In terms of, when we said you have to learn algebra again, I'm saying, yes, you might have. So then if it comes to like specific, so in our homeschool, for example, I have employed my sister to teach my son something. I've employed my friend to take him on something.
So you're like the principal.
Okay, so you mustn't do everything yourself.
You don't have to do everything yourself. And you ask the question, what do they need? I'll say my first answer is always love for your child. As long as you have the love for your child, it will push you to learn what you need to learn in terms of the mindset you need to have. Because, and you could say you're not patient. I'm also not a very patient person.
No, you can't say that. You are very patient.
You see me here, you say, oh, I've learned to be patient because they also test me, and it's like a refining process for me as well, because they are with me multiple times of the day. So I've had more reps in terms of them testing me and me now learning to, okay, this is not necessary.
No,
okay, this is my battle. This is my battle.
One is two.
How hard is that?
Leave me alone, my last son. I want to throttle him half the time. And now I'm his teacher. Oh, he's going to detect.
Do you understand?
The difference is that you have pressure because you want him to submit something tomorrow. That pressure will not be there because you are the one that crafted out what you want your child to learn. And you're going to craft it out in a way that it is more palatable for him. So it's not going to be like, you have to do it and we have tomorrow to submit. Once you take that pressure out, a lot of the homework palaver will remove first.
All right.
Then you now start.
But doesn't the pressure teach them deadlines, and all that? If you decide to take the pressure out, wouldn't they take their time, procrastinate,
it's
and
mommy.
So that's
you can do it at any
there are
time.
other ways to teach all of these skills. That is not. Why are you laughing?
It is your face that she saw that cracked her up.
There are different ways to teach those skills. So now my son is 9. As soon as he turned about 6 years old, we were now a bit more structured in terms of, oh, you have to wake up at this time, or you have to wake up at that time. It is not negotiable, but again, flexible, but still teaching him the skill of, and now we are doing projects. So we have a timeline for our project, right? And then he knows that, oh, we have to finish this by. So that means we have to walk back what we need to do to get this time. So he's still learning the skill, but it doesn't have to be with homework. It doesn't have to be with, it can be other things.
Tomilola, I'm curious to know, I just want to, look at this at a different angle because you mentioned that every child is, has their own needs and stuff. But I want us to include the community of children with special needs, those that are neurodivergent, for example, some are on the spectrum. And you see a situation where, especially in Nigeria, when you want to put a child on the spectrum into school, it comes in to be very expensive because some of the institutions don't accommodate that. Do you have, what advice would you give a parent that says, well, I've tried schools, my child is on the spectrum and they're not getting what they need? Would you advise that a child that is on the spectrum could also be homeschooled at an adequate level?
Yes. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes it's where it's pinching you, because I've had people that, because their children are on the spectrum, or they have a child on the spectrum, they've had to take that difficult decision to say, okay, I want to homeschool this child because they're not getting what they need. Right? So even children that are, that are in schools, they have personalized learning in a proper, school that actually accommodates children with special needs. They have personalized learning. They'll have maybe a practitioner that is with them. Then they'll have somebody else. Some of them have two, just to get the child up to speed. And even with that, some parents are still not satisfied. So if you're not satisfied with that, then you can make the choice. The beautiful thing is, that's why I said it gives people options. Rather than saying, oh, I'm just stuck with this. Then you can decide that. And then employ the practitioner yourself, the person that will come and maybe a speech therapist or somebody else that can assist you and support you. Because that's in an ideal situation. Those are the supports that you get in school, but you probably might not have a lot of flexibility in terms of maybe choosing who you want to be in your support system. So that would help them.
So mine is now the traipsing, or let me say the transition now into secondary and university. I think that's where my next question is coming from. What happens to them in terms of adapting to environments with new, different structures, expectations, and all of that? I'm now talking secondary into university. How is it like? Do they do that seamlessly?
Yeah, I mean, they're building skills already at home. Those skills. So, for example, we would maybe do an activity in the house today. Tomorrow, we can do it outside. You will see how your child would, you know, adapt in those situations. So they're building those kind of skills, right? And so when you have, and we have to remember that you are parenting as well. While they are with you, you are parenting. So you're teaching them that this and this is what you expect. So people that are even preparing their children for common entrance, the way they are homeschooling is not necessarily it's not necessarily preparing them for the common entrance. But when they know their children want to write common entrance, they prepare them for common entrance, right? So it's the same thing when you get to that milestone, and then you say, this is the next phase. And we are on the journey together. We have done the admission process together. We have done everything together. So you know that this is what's coming next. And
so I need to just sneak this in.
We have to go.
Have you seen homeschool children, like maybe from the primary stage, if we look at it in Nigerian style of schooling, have some of them transitioned to regular secondary schools?
Oh, yes.
From homeschooling
absolutely. Absolutely.
And have some done all the way through secondary school, but only transition from secondary to university?
Yes,
I'd love to meet them.
Hey, Tomilola, oh Jesus. Tomilola Olatunde.
I've seen some of them. I've seen some of them.
Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Yeah.
I have a sneaky feeling you'll be back here at the table because the conversation is
really
really
started.
started.
When they don't do homework.
Yes. There's so many questions. There's so many questions. But with you, Tomilola, I think one thing is clear. Education doesn't have to look the same for every child. But whatever path the family chooses, the goal remains the same. Learning that prepares a child not just for school, but for life. That's all we have on Jasiri today. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow. And Tommy will be back at this table.
Absolutely.
We're not done yet.
Bye for now.
We have so many questions, don't we?